and you can watch us. So we are on your computer or your mobile device. Head on over to SuperTalk TV. You'll see I'm not alone in the studio, and that always makes me happy to have friends in the house. And joining us is Joe Lee. He's the owner, editor-in-chief of Dogwood Press, and now Sunrise Press, which we're going to learn more about. And his first author from that publication, Moncia Walton. She is the author of Advent Reflections for This Day. Perfect timing as we roll into the holiday season. So welcome, y'all.
Hello, Rebecca.
I'm so happy to have you back, Joe, and have you back helping other authors across the state and I'm sure beyond get their works out into the world, which I think is really cool. So you've had Dogwood Press for how long?
2002 was the beginning of Dogwood Press, and that is a mystery suspense publishing house.
And so I guess you needed to find another avenue for some of the other works you found intriguing or authors that you thought needed a place. So you started Sunrise Press. So what led you to this new opportunity for authors here in the state?
I've gotten a number of good faith-based queries over the years. Good stories, good news, ideas, both fiction and nonfiction. And I would immediately write and say this is a good idea, but it belongs with something that works with faith-based authors. And Monica and I had been acquainted for a number of years, but I got her query and I thought, I don't need to send back a rejection, even a gentle one right away.
What a compliment.
Yeah.
I know.
I thought about it. I prayed about it. I thought, well, and I thought, how do I expand my publishing house? And I've never arrived at something which I think could help me take a giant leap with Dogwood Press. But I woke up one morning and I thought, I'm going to call Monica and let's have a big discussion about this book. I already was trying to imagine what that book would look like in print, and therefore what Sunrise Press, as I thought of it even before I met with Monica, might look like when it got going. So,
is it that much different publishing like something like you have your suspense sort of fiction novels, that kind of area or silo, and then you have your faith-based? I mean, is the process sort of still the same? Is it more or less the branding is different?
Yes to everything you just said. The process is really very much like I interview, vet, and work with fiction authors that I'm thinking about publishing. But in getting this book out, we're dealing with some traditional bookstores as we think of them, Lemuria, Past Christian Books, and others around the state. But we're working with places of worship, wanting them to get quantities of the book for parishioners and congregants. And we're reaching out in much different ways. It's a whole different kind of marketing for this book. And I suspect any Sunrise Press title is going to be a whole different kind of marketing than the mystery suspense marketing I've
So
done for a long time.
you have a whole new sort of avenue of potential bookstores, because really there's a lot of now churches that have and offer books or have libraries or things of that nature that try to help their congregations get that type of material that they're wanting. So I think that's kind of cool. Okay, Monica, so you came to Joe Lee with this idea. What inspired you? So this is Advent Reflections for This Day. It's going to be perfect for the holiday season, as I mentioned. But when did this start in your mind that you felt like you were being called to put something together?
Well, I worked at a church for nearly 12 years, my church, and so I facilitated a lot of group studies and a lot of, seasonal books when Advent and Lent and different things would roll around. So I've done a lot of reading and a lot of looking, and I've just always known that Advent is such a busy time. It's such a short, and we're already, I heard you saying last week, is it too early? But we're going to sing Christmas and we're going to do Christmas. And, it hits us really early. And I know so many times, so many people will say, I'm going to keep this Advent holy. I'm going to, and we start off really great. And then we've got to do grocery lists and we got to do planned parties and family visits and
which are all good things, but they can
good.
Smother out the reason for the season.
Yeah, and one thing I've found is that when people are working, this one's a weekly devotional, so that was my motivation, so that it's tangible, it's doable. You can still do your spiritual work without worrying about getting behind on your daily reading, because I know so many people who would be 1 or 2 or 3 days behind and then just abandon it because they feel like I can't catch up. So
That would be me. That would be like, oh man, I messed up. I might as well. I'll start again next year. Or I'd try again next Advent, which is not what you should do. And I know many listening to Good Things Monica probably has the calendar ready to be pulled out. I know a lot of families have incorporated that in different ways throughout their own traditions. But for those that, I know that word, I've heard Advent. I think I know around the time it should start or what should be going on, but I'm not really sure. How do you explain it to those who maybe haven't ever opened up to the idea that this may be something they should be thinking about doing to enhance their experience during holiday season?
That's a great question. I appreciate that. So the word Advent actually means waiting. And so it's the 4 weeks in preparation, waiting for the birth of our Lord. So especially around here in Mississippi, we're very spiritual people. We're Christians, and we know that Christmas is about the birth of Jesus Christ. But a lot of non-Jesus things are out there and get in the way of us focusing on that. And so I raised 4 children. I understand.
Yes.
And busy life. And so that I wrote it with, myself and other people like that in mind. And as I explain it to people, it's this big sigh of relief. Okay, I can do a weekly devotional. And so I've set it up to where everything's contained in the book. It does the 4 Sunday Gospels, and then my original stories, or taking the message of the gospel and putting it in a contemporary setting. So it's like someone walking today living out that message of the gospel. And then there's 3 questions. We can handle 3 questions to make you think about how you would react in those situations. What would I do if that were me? Or I know someone like that. How could I help someone like that? And then 3 response suggestions to kind of live that out throughout that week. So it gives you enough that you can take a few minutes and read it, and then you mark things, and then you'll come and revisit them through the week, rather than having to start with something new every day.
And it's a very unintimidating book. If you're looking at SuperTalk TV, I'm holding it up, and I feel like that alone would help me maybe decide that this could be something that I would be willing to stick with. If it's really big and lots of things, it's a little overwhelming. You don't want to fail before you get started. But also, would it be the type of material, since you've brought it into, I guess, present day, Monica, for the present day believer, if you pull it out at work, and maybe you've got your little group friends at work that could go through it, or even family. I mean, you're thinking about if it's every day, that gets tough. But maybe this is a way to incorporate a nice little stop and pause through the season with those that you spend a lot of time with, and maybe share in your faith, but don't always share time wherever you're at to talk about it or to do it, if that makes sense.
Sure.
I mean, I'm asking, so it wouldn't take you could do it over your lunch break.
Oh, easy. Yeah. You could do it driving to and from work. Call your sister up and say, hey, did you read this week's study? Did you read the story? I really resonated with so-and-so, and, just...
Because I like the question ideas, because, boy, right now, have we fallen short of just asking good questions and pondering them? Doesn't have to be a right or wrong answer, just sort of thinking for yourself. It's like it's a new idea, right?
Yeah, even write it in there. There are no right and wrong answers. It's how can I be the best that I want to be?
Yeah, and it's okay if you get
living.
a little, I guess, convicted. That's the word I'm looking for. And I think that's what it's also meant to be, is sort of keep us on track. Okay, Joe, when she came to you, you didn't even have Sunrise Press yet. So you basically launched this whole expansion to Dogwood Press for no pressure, Monica.
It's an honor, actually.
But for someone who is a man of faith, what struck you about this as just being different, that needed to be, like, Jolie needed to help put this out there?
This is a business thing here. The query. I think you and I have talked about that before. Like when you've interviewed me in the past, when I have my publisher editor hat on, and I hear from people, and I compare this to applying for any job. You want to put your best foot forward. You've got one shot at making the first impression. What was the Head and Shoulders tagline? You never get a second chance to make a good impression. And the query was excellent. It really, really spelled out all the reasons why she thought the reader would find a lot of value and a lot of spiritual nourishment in that book. And I had to read it a second time before I realized it was a weekly devotional. Even though it said that very early in the query, I just missed that. But I was taken by not only the quality of the query, but the uniqueness. I want, there are lots of devotional books out there, as you know, Rebecca, but a weekly devotional with all the spiritual nourishment you'd expect from a daily Christmas devotional. I thought, we may have something here.
And you did have something here, and you published it, but you've also got other good things coming up with Sunrise Press. We'll get to that more coming up. Mobile device. Just head on over to SuperTalk TV. We're continuing our conversation with Joe Lee. He is the owner, editor-in-chief of Dogwood Press. We've had him on with that hat on before, but now he's got Sunrise Press. He's expanding his ability to help authors get out their works now in a faith-based arena. And Monica is his first author, and she has written Advent Reflections for this day. So don't roll your eyes that we're talking about Christmas early, because you got if you're going to do Advent, you need to be on it, because it's coming up.
Right.
It starts November the 27th, which technically, what do we know what day that is?
Well, that's a Monday.
That's
Advent
a Monday.
begins December 3rd.
Oh,
but
gotcha.
I recommend everyone start the book on November 27th, because what a lot of people don't realize is we kind of get gypped this year. We don't have a fourth week of Advent, because the fourth Sunday is actually Christmas Eve.
All right.
So, but if you start a week ahead, then you get your full 4 weeks of Advent preparation.
Nobody wants to miss out on a day of opportunity to have officially
right.
Christmas and Advent to sort of start. So I can understand sort of the rush, Joe, to maybe get this out with Sunrise Press. How long have y'all been working on this? When did you start Sunrise Press?
January of this year.
Gotcha.
And Monica, we made this official in March, April, something like that.
Yeah, I think March.
Yeah. And marketing, reaching out all summer, and had books arrive 6 or 8 weeks ago.
Exciting times.
Yeah.
What was it like the first time you saw your little baby
Oh,
in
my
your hands?
goodness. It is just like a baby, too. I mean, just turning over the whole manuscript to him, it's like it's my baby. I hope you like it.
and then sort of putting it out and into the world. But you hope to put more out. And I know both you and Monica are both Catholic, but the Sunrise Press, you guys are looking to open up for lots of denominations. So when you were thinking about or thinking through what this faith-based publishing would look like here in Mississippi, Joe, what were your do's, don'ts, boundaries you were staying in? Not kind of what were you thinking about?
Dogwood Press is mystery suspense all the way. And that's laid out that way on the Dogwood Press website. Now there is a Sunrise Press tab on the Dogwood Press website. And the copy there says selected faith-based fiction and nonfiction titles will be considered. Have I made that broad and vague enough?
But you don't know, because if you cut off your nose to despite your face, you may miss out on something that could have really resonated with you, which is, at the end of the day, you get to choose.
That's sort of what I was thinking. This is a startup part of the publishing house. And I thought, let's see what happens. Again, mystery suspense fiction is something I read, I write, and I have a lot of experience with. But I'm an admirer of faith-based work, but had not published it before. And as I said before, it's an all-new way of marketing for me. So if it's really good, if it catches my attention, and I would tell anybody who's interested in contacting me with a query for Sunrise Press, Monica did it exactly the right way. She obviously did some research, and she came up with a unique product. And I thought, there are so many devotional books out there, but this was a very unique product. So I'm looking for something unique in terms of fiction or nonfiction, but I'd be happy to look at both.
Joe, when you're living in a world that says the paper book is dead, which they're just sort of saying in terms of like ebooks or just whatever. What, as a publisher, what keeps you obviously expanding and growing your business here in Mississippi to keep pushing for traditional publishing, traditional books, getting things in the hands of folks to actually flip, read, and turn, even if there's an ebook option, but still, like so many of yours that you've with Dogwood Press and Sunrise, you still stick to something you can hold.
Physical books, yeah. Until I take my last breath, Rebecca, that'll be the direction I go. I firmly believe that a good product, regardless of genre, is going to be enjoyed by people who still enjoy books. And again, it's been challenging to try to expand Dogwood Press, especially after the pandemic hurt so many businesses and folks' bottom lines. But this struck me as a really good idea when I got Monica's query and when I thought about trying a faith-based press. I think there's going to be a lot of interest in it. I think there are a lot of folks out there who like hearing good stories, who like hearing good news, and will appreciate what we're able to generate. So
I think so here on Good
I'm
Things.
100% all in on physical books as long as there's even a slight demand for it.
Monica, when you think about the topic of, or even Advent, but then also just faith-based material, it's one that you feel like, man, they've been writing on this for 2,000 years, or sort of plus. It can feel like, oh, that's been done before, or it can feel like, what is my point of view on, on something matter if so many other folks have sort of talked about it or tried to explain it.
Sure.
So what keeps you motivated and to inspire others that, your perspective matters in this space and can matter?
Sure. Well, it's not necessarily Monica's perspective. It comes through prayer. And when you're sitting with the Lord and talking and listening to the Lord, it's new every time you read it. And that's why it's called the living word, Scripture is. So my book has some nonfiction. It has actual scripture in it. And then the fiction stories that I created that were really just inspired through prayer. When I asked the Lord, what is the message we need to hear on this passage today to make it really relatable? And so, and my book even has a place for you to write notes. That's the difference. That's why you need a book in hand and not a digital one. Because when you're in prayer, most people I know, if you're serious about your prayer time, you're going to get something. And when you get that message, you don't want to forget it.
Right.
So you got a place to write it
and
down.
that's neat too, because you can go back and stick it in your bookshelf, and you can go back and sort of see and reflect from year to year, because that's something that comes up with Advent every year.
Every year,
and so you can make those notes and just see how life is
and it's
changing
fun to see
and
how
evolving.
to see how you've grown, and what struck you one year is going to be different maybe the next time you read it, even week to week.
Yep. And Joe, when you have physical books, you can be in physical locations to meet real people.
Oh, yeah. And Monica's book is at Lemuria here in the Jackson Market and around the state, Lorelei Books in Vicksburg, the Book Mart and Cafe in Starkville, Impression Books out in Flowood, and Pass Christian Books with locations in Pass Christian and Gulfport. And she and I are both going to be at the Book Mart and Cafe this Sunday between 11 and 3. There's a big multi-author pre-Christmas shopping event there. And then Monica's going to journey over to New Iberia, Louisiana, home of the Tabasco factory.
Yeah, I'm going to see my people down there. That's where I'm from.
You're allowed. We'll forgive you for that.
It's a neat bookstore in downtown New Iberia called Books on the Tash, and that's Saturday, November 25th. But you can get it all over the state of Mississippi.
What's something this is something positive. If this is something that tickles your pickle and you feel interested in it, to pick up and hand out Thanksgiving. It's a small book, right? I mean, when we talk about just the landscape of what's going on right now, all over the world, I feel like, this Christmas season could really be an opportunity to maybe, have some positivity in your life, refocus, get in something simple, get your mind back on the things that sort of matter most, and then take a little time for that. And I think your entire holiday season may be less stressed for that.
Yeah. And I'm doing it, and I have friends who, our families don't live near each other anymore. So they're given those gifts at Thanksgiving, and then they can all connect over the study throughout the season of Advent. And that kind of a way to keep everybody remembering what we're doing for Advent.
This was not make a good stocking stuffer, because you need to get it for Thanksgiving. It's a turkey giver.
You can still read it, but
it wouldn't be the same. But Joe, you just listed out a lot of independently owned and local bookstores across the state that you guys will be traveling to, and others. How important is it, even if it's not this book or Dogwood Presses, to stop in and choose those places for, stocking stuffers, teachers' gifts, remembering your local bookstore?
It is super important. As long as those of us who love to read want to see brick and mortar bookstores, please patronize them. Please drop in and shop. Take advantage of the personal service and keep your area bookstore alive and well as long as it can stay afloat.
Yeah. And I think that's important. We sometimes forget them, even, and folks like books, but they also have the coolest other little gadgets and trinkets and things in there. And they are local businesses who often are sometimes the only ones who will support your local authors, who are also small business owners in a weird, well, not a weird way, but you're providing a product as well, and it all comes back. It all comes back. So if we can't make it to one of those, Joe, where do we go, or where do we put in our query for Sunrise Press?
Dogwoodpress.com. easy to remember, and there is a Sunrise Press tab on the dogwoodpress.com website. That'll take you right to the Sunrise Press page, and I welcome hearing from prospective faith-based writers who would like to send in a query and describe their fiction or nonfiction project.
And I encourage you to do it. Who cares if he says no thank you? Mm-hmm. You never know.
He says it very kindly. I guess. He accepted mine. So.
But there's always going to have to be the yes also. And so you never know. This may be your year. This may be your sign. But it's definitely your sign to slow down this season. Actually, remember Advent, what it's for. We can all give a week for the next couple of weeks to that. So thank you both.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Rebecca.
And you guys stick with us. We got more good